War has shaped human history from ancient battles to modern conflicts. This raises an important question: is war a part of human nature or is it a human choice? War refers to organized, large-scale violence driven by power, resources, or ideology. This debate matters because the world still faces ongoing conflicts, and understanding the causes of war helps us prevent it. Some believe war comes from human instinct like aggression and survival. Others argue it results from political decision, economic interest, and biological perspective. In this video, we explore both views to understand whether war is inevitable or a choice humans can refuse.
I will discuss war as human nature from a biological perspective. This view suggests that war is linked not only to politics or society, but also to human evolution. The first point is from an evolutionary perspective, which is aggression developed as a survival instinct. Early humans needed to protect themselves, such as defend their territory and compete for essential resources like food and shelter. These pressures often led to conflict. Move to the second point, which is the evolutionary psychology explains that individuals and groups who were better at competing had higher chances of survival. Research on primates, particularly chimpanzees, shows that territorial aggression and coordinated group violence, which is closely resemble humans' warfare. Evidence from early human societies also supports this idea. Archaeological findings show signs of raids, defensive settlements, and violent encounters, indicating that organized conflict existed long before modern states. In conclusion, war has biological and evolutionary roots shaped by survival needs. However, understanding these instincts does not mean war is unavoidable. Instead, it helps us recognize and control them to promote more peaceful outcomes.
From a historical perspective, warfare appears as a recurring and persistent feature of human society. Across time and space, conflict has emerged in nearly every civilization, suggesting that war may be deeply embedded in human behavior rather than being solely the result of specific political or cultural conditions. In ancient history, early civilizations such as Mesopotamia, ancient Egypt, Greece, and Rome frequently engaged in organized warfare. These conflicts were driven by competition over territory, resources, and political authority. Despite vast differences in social structure and belief system, this society relied on war as a means of state expansion and consolidation of power, indicating a shared pattern of human conduct. This pattern continued into the medieval period. Feudal wars in Europe, dynastic conflict in East Asia, and religiously framed wars such as the Crusades demonstrate that warfare transcended cultural and religious boundaries. Although the justification for war varied from divine mandate to political legitimacy, the practice of war itself remained as constant. The continuity of warfare across diverse civilizations support argument that war is a structural element of human history. While technological advancements and ideological frameworks have changed over time, the recurrence of armed conflicts suggests an enduring human tendency to resort to violence when confronted with competition and insecurity. Therefore, the historical record reinforces the view that war is not an anomaly but rather a recurring phenomenon shaped by fundamental aspects of human nature and social organization.
War as a choice. Political and structural factors. War is often described as an unavoidable act of human aggression or deep-rooted hatred. However, from a political and structural perspective, war is not an instinctive act but rather a deliberate choice made primarily by state and political elites. Decisions to go to war are shaped by power calculations, ideological goals, and strategic interests rather than spontaneous public emotion, while liberal and Marxist theories suggest that mass public opinion is inherently peaceful. If a state initiates a war, it usually because political leaders or the capitalist class choose war over the desire and interests of the public. or perhaps because of the false consciousness on the part of the people. First, wars are typically initiated by political elites, not by ordinary citizens. Presidents, prime ministers, military commanders, and ruling coalitions possess the authority to declare war, mobilize armed force, and allocate national resources for military power. While leaders may claim this act on behalf of its people, public opinion is often managed or manufactured through propaganda, media framing, and nationalist rhetoric. In many cases, population are persuaded to support war after the decision has already been made. Second, power, ideology, and nationalism plays a crucial role in shaping leaders' choice. Leaders may pursue war to expand territorial control, secure strategic resources, maintain regime legitimacy, or reinforce their position domestically. Ideology such as communism, religious extremism, often provides moral justifications for violence. Nationalism, on the other hand, is frequently used to portray war as a defensive and honorable act, even when it serves political interests. Third, history shows that many wars were caused by policy decisions rather than genuine public desire. For instance, the 2003 Iraq War is a clear example. It was driven by elite security narrative and strategic calculations, despite widespread global public opposition. Similarly, authoritarian regimes often initiate conflict to distract from domestic crisis or consolidate power. These cases demonstrate that war is not inevitable, but the result of calculated political choices. In conclusion, war should be understood as a strategic decision shaped by political structures and elite interests. It is not a natural human instinct, but rather a policy option selected under specific conditions. Recognizing war as a choice is crucial because if war is chosen, then it can also be prevented through better leadership, accountability, and institutional constraints. Thank you.
Not all wars are inevitable. Many conflicts are driven by economic interests, meaning that war is often a deliberate choice rather than a natural instinct. Leaders and states sometimes use war strategically to gain material benefits. Controlling resources can give a country power, influence, and security, motivating leaders to engage in war. Throughout history, wars have been fought over valuable resources like oil, land, and also trade routes. For example, colonial powers often went to war to control trade networks and resource-rich territories. Access to resources can give states a strategic advantage, and this pursuit often motivates conflicts. War also creates opportunities for profit. The arms industry, military contractors, and suppliers benefit financially from prolonged conflicts. Modern wars often see an increase in arms sales, which shows how economic incentives can escalate war. So let's look at the Iraq War in 2003 as an example. While there were multiple justifications, control over oil and strategic resources play a significant role. Historically, wars over gold, diamonds, or fertile land also show the material interest can drive conflict. In short, war is not always an inevitable outcome of human nature. Economic interests demonstrate that leaders often choose war deliberately to achieve profit and strategic advantage.
Now, let's take a look on how society has normalized war. War is often explained as a result of human nature or political decisions, but another important factor is society itself. From a young age, society teaches people to see war as something normal or even necessary. Through education, history books are often focused on military success, national heroes, and success in war, while the suffering of civilians are discussed much less. This creates the illusions that war is a natural part of history rather than a choice that couldn't be avoided. Culture narrative also play a major role. Soldiers are often portrayed as heroes, and dying in war is framed as an honorable sacrifice for the nation. While the respect for soldiers are important, the kind of narratives can discourage people from questioning whether the war itself was justified. In many countries, militarism is closely linked to a national identity. Military parades, national symbols, and political patriotic message can make war seem like duty rather than a decision. As a result, society conditions people to accept war before it even begins. Next, I'm going to discuss more into the lens of public opinion. Next, we are going to take a look at the lens of media, propaganda, and public opinion. Most people do not experience war directly. Instead, they understand war through the media. This gives media the powerful role in shaping public opinion. Media coverage often frame conflict as a clear division between us and them. One is presented as a good side and the other was bad. But this simplifies complex political situations and reduce empathy for the opposing side. Next, we look at propaganda. Propaganda also play a role by selectively presenting information. Civilian casualty may be downplayed, while military actions are justified as necessary for security or peace. Over time, this creates what scholars call manufactured consent, where the public support of war is shaped rather than freely chosen. This showed that war is not only a result of instinct or leadership decisions, but also socially constructed choice. When society and media normalize war, it becomes easier for leaders to pursue it. Therefore, understanding war requires us to look not only just on human natures or politics, but also at how society and media shapes our acceptance of violence.
If war were truly hardwired into our biology, why do we have entire societies that have chosen peace for centuries? We are getting into the reasons why the nature claim is incomplete. First of all, evolutionary aggression is a strategy and not a destiny. It can be amplified or redirected by culture, institution, and leadership. This is later supported by anthropologists such as Amber and Amber in 2006, which show that huge variation in warfare frequency across regions and eras, a clear sign that conflict is not a universal biological imperative. Let me give you 3 vivid examples of the peaceful societies. The first one is Switzerland. Since 1815, Congress of Vienna, Switzerland has pursued a policy of permanent neutrality for more than 2 centuries. It has avoided armed conflict, relying on diplomatic mediation and a robust domestic consensus. In the case of Nordic welfare states, Denmark, Norway, Sweden, and Finland, and also Iceland enjoy low inequality, high trust societies, which as a result their external wars are minimal, and when disputes arise, they are settled through the European Union or the OSCE frameworks, rather than the battlefield. And last but not least, in the case of Maori Iwi, which is pre-colonial New Zealand, conflict was often settled in Hui Council, where restorative custom, Wakapapa genealogy, and Wakauhana Ungatanga, which is relationship building, replace endless cycles of revenge. Moreover, there are institutional safeguards that make peace possible. These societies are not isolated miracles. They are underpinned by global and regional institutions that channel disputes into peaceful channels. For example, we have United Nations, UN. Using collective security and peacekeeping missions such as the UNIFIL and MONUSCO, they have prevented escalation into full-scale war. Next, we have regional bodies such as ASEAN. ASEAN have their own way of quiet diplomacy, which is called the Asian Way. And the last one, we have the European Union's Common Foreign and Security Policy. Both of these create economic interdependence that raises the cost of war. And then we have International Court of Justice, ICJ, that provides a legal avenue for states to settle territorial or resource disputes without firing a shot. Let me illustrate two modern case studies how choice and not nature wins. The first one is the Good Friday Agreement in 1998, which is after 3 decades of sectarian violence in Northern Ireland, political leaders, aided by the US-Irish Framework documents, negotiated a power-sharing arrangement that has held for over 2 decades. And the second one is the South African Truth and Reconciliation Commission in 1996 until 1998. Instead of a civil war after apartheid, South Africa chose restorative justice. The TRC gave victims a voice, perpetrators amnesty in exchange for the truth, and the nation transitioned peacefully to democracy. All of this shows a simple truth that human choice, reinforced by strong institutions and shared values, can outweigh any innate aggressive impulse. Now, to wrap everything together, I will hand the floor to our final speaker who will synthesize the argument and answer the central question.
So, to conclude, we return back to the simple questions, which is war a human nature or a human choice? Yes, human can be aggressive. Realist thinkers like Thomas Hobbes remind us that fear and competitions are always present in human society. The conflict is possible, but war is not natural. War happens because people decide it should be happen. Leaders choose violence, state organize it, and society justify it. These are political choice, not a biological instinct itself. And history proves something important, that humans can cooperate, which we have a diplomacy, international institutions, and the long periods of peace. War is not unavoidable, so the takeaway here is clear. Human nature may allow the conflict, but war is a choice. And if war is chosen by humans, then peace can be chosen too. The real question is, will we choose it?